Okay, we need some caffeine. We need to get the ball rolling. I tried. I really did. I tried to do a spoiler-free video of this trilogy. We're talking about Fool's Errand, The Golden Fool, and Fool's Fate, also known as the Tawny Man Trilogy written by Robin Hobb. There are so many things to say and discuss that it was really hard for me to do a spoiler-free video. I'm not even sure why I thought I could do it. I felt it was like good information, but it's just hard to talk about it without being like, this happened, the dragons are back, Tantalia's here, Fitz and Molly, and Fitz and Burrich. I said that Fool's Errand to me felt like a love story to the Farseer trilogy, a love story to Farseer fans. This felt like the conclusion to Fitz that I never got from Assassin's Quest. I was satisfied at the end of Assassin's Quest, but then the more I thought about it, as I was reading this, I was like, oh my god, like this is what I wanted for Fitz. This is what I truly wanted to know. I felt like seeing Fitz be a man and be an adult was something that I just needed to see of him to close the chapter and to put to bed the atrocities that happened to him from the Farseer trilogy, just to see how he has been able to reconcile that as a man versus when he was a young man. Now he's in his mid-30s and has had some time to reflect. His prefrontal cortex has fully developed and now he has true reasoning skills. But I felt like Fool's Errand to me just was so much more conclusive of an ending for Fitz than the end of Assassin's Quest. And I felt like if Robin Hobb never continued Fitz's story, but at the end of Fool's Errand, I actually would have been satisfied with the way that ended. And then what I felt like from The Golden Fool and Fool's Fate, I felt like now we were on a brand new adventure. I felt like this completely closed the chapter on the Farseer trilogy, and now we have a brand new adventure of dealing with Prince Dutiful and helping him secure a bride, helping him to slay a dragon, if that's even possible. And then that to me felt like a new chunk of a story. So it's interesting because this is a whole trilogy. Like this is one complete story, these three books. But I could have included this book with the other three and these two as their own tale. I just root for Fitz so much, and it's too much. It's too much for me, like the directions that his life takes, and he just never wins. He just never wins. Like, I want him to be recognized as chivalry's heir so freaking bad. And it never happens. It almost happened at the end of Fool's Fate. Like, it almost happened where Fitz was going to be recognized as King Fitz Chivalry. Like, I got so tingly down my spine, down my body. I was like, oh my god, yes, is it going to happen? But the back of my mind was like, no, this is Robin Hobb. It's not going to happen. And of course, it doesn't happen. It makes me so sad. It makes me so sad. I just want him to be recognized as Fitz Chivalry Farseer. When every single person who called him Fitz Chivalry Farseer, it just like created this fiery burning hope within me that maybe someday he would finally be acknowledged. I hate Starling. That's one character that I just like don't understand why she's still around. Like, if you followed me while I was reading these books, if you followed me on Twitter, I was just like, bye Felicia, get out of here. I guess it's like fine that Fitz has one additional person who knows he's alive and who knows who he is, but were there any choices that he made that really were impacted by the fact that Starling was there? It gave me so much life when he was like, it was Molly's face that I saw when we were together, in so many words. He said it was Molly's, you bitch. Maybe that's how he said it, but I was like, yes, please, thank you so much. I know he was saying it to hurt her and he was saying it out of hurt and anger, but it was the right thing to say. She was just constantly holding things over his head that she had no right to hold over his head. If you really wanted to, like, ruin his life, you would have just revealed who he was. And the fact that she was like, well, I haven't been revealing who you are to everybody, so you owe me this. I was like, you don't actually owe Starling a thing. Zero things. There is nobody quite like Starling in these books that can make me just like as aggravated as I get when I think about her. I also thought it was a really interesting story arc for Shade, and him finally being able to use the skill. The thoughts that Fitz has on him where he's like, I am your skill master, so I rank above you. I am your former apprentice, so I rank below you. And we were both men who have been used by the Farseer Rain, so we are equals. There were so many different ways that their conversations could have gone, so many different ways that Fitz thought about Shade, and who knows, like maybe he'll still be around for the final trilogy of books. There were so many things about Fitz's mental growth and mental development, and all the reflections that he makes back on his life that I really appreciated. And I don't know if it's because of the fact that I'm 31 and Fitz is probably like 35 in these books, but like being in my mid-30s and having that same type of thought process where I can go back and reflect on things that I was foolish about as a child and stupid things that I did as a young adult, and now having some perspective. But it really resonated with me that we have come this far with Fitz. And so now I feel like as an adult in my mid-30s that I'm reading a character that is being able to reflect the kinds of things that I wish I could see reflected and represented in literature as a mid-adult. And I got that in Fitz. And so once again, Robin Hobb just knocked it out of the park. I thought Dutiful was cute, loved him. I honestly thought that his reaction to finding out who Fitz was would have been a little bit more like fireworks than there actually were. I was happy with it. I just thought it would go differently than it did. And maybe that's the whole point, that like it was a big deal, but not that big of a deal, because we should have respected Dutiful as a teenager, being able to think and process and come to his own conclusions. Maybe Fitz should have given Dutiful more credit than he gave to him. Maybe me as a reader should have given Dutiful more credit, that he wouldn't just like overreact to finding out who Fitz was. Okay, so I guess I'm happy with that. But then, oh gosh, the scene when they're both holding their father's swords killed me. It killed me that Fitz was holding Chivalry's sword and it felt like it was made for him. And then Dutiful gets to hold Verity's sword and he just feels like it was made for him. But then the realization that Chivalry's sword was made for the king and Fitz would never be king, so therefore he can never have his father's sword. Once again, I just root for this guy so hard and it just never happens. The ending, the epilogue where he gets to be with Molly, I guess that's for me, that's like a small consolation prize. Like, I just want the man on the throne, but I guess Molly's fine too. To me, all the scenes with Burrich were too much, and I loved him. I thought it was so appropriate. That was one of those like storylines that I am so happy it ended the way that it did. It was beautiful. It was perfect. I cried when Fitz came back from the cave and it's Burrich to greet him, and oh my god, Heart of the Pack was holding him. It was too much. It was too much. It was so good. Nettle, Swift, I love them. Webb, Thick was perfection. How many stories have I read where we truly get a character like Thick and represented as well and as complex as he is? I read Thick as a character who was on the spectrum, the autism spectrum, so I was obsessed with him. I thought his whole character journey was amazing. You may have noticed that I have been avoiding talking about a certain character death, and that was Night Eyes, and that one broke me. There was a period of time that I had to take in between Fool's Errand and when I started The Golden Fool. I needed to mourn Night Eyes. Like, I just needed some time to mourn over this character, and it took me like a couple months in between these two books before I picked up the next part of the trilogy, because to be honest, that's also the reason why you didn't get an actual review of Fool's Errand, was because I just couldn't even film a video after reading that book. You know, I knew it was coming because Robin Hobb wasn't subtle with the fact that Night Eyes was going to die in this book, and the little snippets of Night Eyes that we get throughout the rest of the trilogy were just so perfect. They just like, opened up my heart and wrenched it, like, at all the right moments, with the action moving forward and Fitz as he's mourning the loss of his wolf. I feel like if I had picked up The Golden Fool right after picking up Fool's Errand, I just probably wouldn't have finished it because of how Fitz has chosen to mourn Night Eyes, and there are times when he really thinks about him, and so many times where he just pushes the thought of the wolf away, and then at the end when he's finally able to embrace certain aspects of the wolf without being too sad over it, and the choices that those two made together, and then the choices that Night Eyes made separately from Fitz because he knew that his time was coming to an end, and he just needed Fitz to accept it. Yeah, there's a reason why you didn't see a full review of just Fool's Errand. It was because I just needed to mourn Night Eyes for a little bit longer, and I wasn't ready to talk about him. Here you go, my Robin Hobb fans. This was my spoilery discussion on the entire Tawny Man trilogy. So put your comments in the comment section below. Let me know what you thought about it. I will say though that the Live Ship Traders trilogy at this point in my journey through all 16 of these books is still my favorite. God, that's so hard to say. Now that I've been like dissecting this whole trilogy, is it my favorite? As a standalone trilogy, like as a trilogy of just characters and action, like that trilogy is the best. But when you put all the pieces together of Fitz's life, yeah, that's why I'm reading some young adult right now. Like, I finished Fool's Fate, and then I was like, oh, I can't pick up another really heavy book for a while. So, again, leave your comments in the comment section below. Thank you so much for tuning in. Find me on Instagram and Twitter. It's @WhatCastBread, the same as this channel, so it's super easy to find. And you know how these videos end. I will talk to you later. Bye.